Hey, seventh graders. We're going to go over what you learned from the Introduction to the Holocaust assignment from Tuesday and Wednesday, and then kind of get you set up to begin activities for Thursday and Friday. So, on Schoology, the assignment that you did either on Wednesday or Tuesday or both was two parts. It was a short reading about the Holocaust that was linked here, and the second thing was actually a video that right before spring break we did read or watch some of it in class. So it might have been a little bit of a review, but I thought it was pretty valuable for you to see it again. But just to kind of recap, what did you learn from the activities? So the article on Schoology was from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. And in the article, as you read it, you kind of figured out what the Holocaust was in general. And the Holocaust was really the murder of millions of people, and it was done by a government. And that's what this first sentence means, is state sponsored. That means a country or a nation, Germany, actually did this as a policy. They made it a policy to kill millions of people. And as you read through, there were some kind of key facts here. They came up with this idea called the final solution, and that was the Nazis' policy to actually figure out a way to murder as many Jews as they could, and to a point where they wanted to get rid of everybody who was Jewish from Europe. They also persecuted other groups of people. As you did on your exit ticket, you found out that people who had disabilities were targeted by the Nazis, blacks were targeted by the Nazis, people who disagreed with the Nazis politically, like Soviet Union, for example, if you were a Soviet or a communist, those types of people were also persecuted. And then even further from that, people who were gay were also targeted by the Nazis. So there was a lot of groups that were in here. And then what you had found out from the article was basically the policy of the Holocaust didn't start off with killing. It kind of started off with Jewish people being forced to either quit their jobs or they were excluded from certain places, and it leads into some more, unfortunately, violent things that are going to happen. As you read through here, you found out that the Nazis created these things called ghettos. That's a word that's kind of used in popular culture today, but a ghetto and this time period was a chunk of a city that was basically separate, and it was only intended for Jews to live there. And the conditions inside the ghettos were really terrible. Lots of people died from poor living conditions, from diseases being spread, from a lack of food. And then as the Holocaust continues, you're going to come to find out that the Nazis began to outright murder people. And they go through some different policies here where they begin that transition from just trying to get Jewish people out of Germany and into other places. And then it finally leads into a deportation of lots of people. This map here shows you where people across Europe that were Jewish were taken from their homes, and they were led into what's going to be called a concentration camp, and later what are called extermination camps. And those are going to be basically prisons where if you were taken there as a Jewish person, or even as somebody who was also targeted by the Jews, or by the Nazis, excuse me, you were either going to be forced to work as a prisoner of war, or in some cases you were taken to an extermination camp, and that's the type of camp where you were essentially murdered right when you got there. So there were two different kinds there, and then kind of the end part here as you read through this, the Germans, of course, are going to lose World War II, and as the Soviet Union and some of the US troops and British troops kind of get into parts of Europe that Germany controlled, they're going to find all these camps, and eventually a lot of the people who were in those camps, especially the Jewish people, they're going to move to the United States and other parts of the world, and that's going to be something we'll talk more about later. But that article and then the video also did talk a little bit about some of the background of why this was taking place. And one of the things that you have to remember is that the Nazis really had some goals before World War II started, and a lot of it had to do with the Holocaust. This is a list of some of the things that Adolf Hitler wrote about in his book before World War II started. He wanted to expand territory for the German people, and that's partly because after World War I, as we learned, Germany had some pretty harsh punishments after the war was done. He also wanted what's called a racially pure state, and that means only white Germans should be allowed in Germany, no one else. And then the last one has to do with the Holocaust. Jews are going to be blamed for Germany's loss in World War I, and that's going to lead primarily into the Holocaust. So that that activity was hopefully going to give you some background on what the Holocaust was, and then also what were some of the groups of people that were targeted by the Nazis. And that's going to lead you into, as we keep going further, some of the other activities that you'll be doing for Thursday and Friday. If you have questions about anything that you learned in here, I will be going through your exit tickets and kind of seeing how you did. If you have questions about anything, make sure you send me a message in Schoology or over an email.